G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach with DR and welcome to my final 2024 team reveal. Just like that, we need to lock in these teams, and I tell you what, after the last preseason match and after the round zero games, I am more confused than ever. I hate to say it, but there were players that really put their hand up, other players I was pretty confident on that didn't look terrific. Am I backing my preseason gut and research here, all the blood, sweat and tears I put into it? Or do I use this data, this free data that we got from round zero, and start to tinker around with a few things and look for where the value is really at? That's where I'm struggling at the moment. It's that balancing act between that free data in round zero and then just trying to stick to what I said I was going to do for all of the preseason. That's where I'm struggling at the moment. But as I mentioned, we need to lock something in. If you didn't already check it out, my brother, Janeth Fernando, Third Man Up, Supercoach Swordplay podcast host. This man is everywhere this preseason. The professor and top 150 finisher. He gave us his team reveal yesterday, so I uploaded a video to the channel. It goes for about an hour and 40 minutes. So talk about a detailed team reveal. That is the most detailed one that you will see this year without a doubt. So make sure you check that out. And speaking about the Swordplay potty, also got the tee here. So merch will be available in the next week. Not sure if you can see it too well there, but super excited about that. So information will be available. The website will be up ASAP. And the other thing that I quickly need to mention before we start to actually build this final side is that you still got some time to enter the $100 open league cashies. So really, really fun concept. 20% of the total prize pool will get donated to the RCH. 50% of the total prize pool to the winner. 20% for second. Third will get 10%. And it's looking like a pretty decent prize pool at the moment. Unlimited entries. And Anthony Caminiti is going to be part of this league. If you can manage to beat Cama for total points, you'll also go into the draw for a special prize pack as well. So lots happening this preseason, but you're here for this final team reveal. Now, before we get into it, there have been some structural changes since my last video. Certainly some premiums that have gone out, new premiums that have come in. You may call some of them speculative, but it's all about my strategy going into this season, which I'll tell you all about. So it's that time, guys. Let's start to lock in the 2024 Supercoach team. Alrighty, time to lock in this D1, and it hasn't changed since my last video. It is King Nick Dacos. Now, as you know, if you've been following my preseason, I was really keen on fading him. Not anymore, though. I've come to my senses. I am with the 70% of the competition here. We saw what he did in round zero, 130, and didn't even look like he dominated by any stretch of the imagination. So when he's really on, this guy's ceiling is just uncapped, I think. So Nicky D, it's an annoying buy. There's the potential for Finn to go to him. We really don't know about that, but I'm playing it safe, locking him in, and I think he'll be a clear D1 for average by 5 to 10 points at least, I'm saying, for Nick Dacos. So pretty easy lock there. Now, the next bloke that I'm fading, it's really unfortunate, and I really don't want to have to do it. There may be a late change to get him back in, but I'm fading Dan Houston now. A pick that I'm still super keen on. I've explained why I got that mad run. Janeth talked about him in great detail yesterday as well, and I agreed with every point that he made there. But something has to give at times, and I'm going down a little bit lower. And this man I have had in for a while anyway, and it's Harry Sheasel. So no change with the Sheasel pick. It's just that he's actually moved up all the way to that D2 position. It's been Sicily and it's been Stewart for a long time as well. But a few concerns with Stewart. And if you look at the price difference between Shees and Stewart, certainly different points in their career. I'm a little bit more excited with Shees, and I see more upside with the pick as well. So a young Dacos, as people say, who knows what this bloke could do. I don't see him playing forward, possibly spending a little bit of time in the midfield, but they've got plenty of midfielders to go through there. I think they'll play him in his best position, where he's scored really well, where he's got some nice history last year. So really happy to lock the Shees in. The next bloke I'm going with, so we're still going down the youth path. So Dacos, I can't spell. Dacos, Sheasel, and Hayden Young. So Young is another bloke that just has not left my side. If we look last year to the games where I think it was 75+% with the CBAs, all decent 100+ scores. We saw what he did in that last preseason game as well. I think the CBA time is certainly going to be there. Worst case scenario, as I said, he needs to fill in down back for a little while. He'll still score well enough, I think, to be a really good option. So plenty of upside with this pick. We know what his left leg's like. I think his outside mix of game with his contested game is really decent as well. So I'm a huge fan of Hayden Young, and he has not left my side all season. So here's the bloke that I started off with in Team Picker and has remained here till this day. So really happy with the Hayden Young pick. And this is where the structural changes come in. So I've actually dropped Houston and I've kept on to those three other defenders. And I am going with Zachy Williams. So not much to say with Zach Williams. We know what his durability is like. It's absolutely terrible, but we know what his talent's like as well. A couple of 85+ seasons, I think, or maybe just on 85+, then another 100+ season as well. He doesn't need to do much for this to be a successful pick. And I actually see so much more upside than downside to Williams. And he did everything that we wanted to see, as I mentioned. Didn't set the world on fire, but the role was there. 80% time on ground. Looked like he was fit. Hit the ground running. Perfect for me. So I'll lock him in at 216K. All good there. The next bloke as well, I have had for a fair while, and it's Josh Gibcus. So again, scored pretty well in round one. We know what this bloke's like. Doesn't tend to get a lot of disposals, but loves those 1%ers, loves to spoil the ball as well. Remember, Jaden has reminded us that that does give us Supercoach points. So that's what this pick is all about, along with job security. So if he can just manage to do what he did in that debut year, then he'll make 150K easy. And remember, we are actually getting him at a cheaper price than what we had to pay up for in his rookie year as well. So really easy pick for me, Josh Gibcus. The next bloke really came into contention, was only in, I think, 3% of sides coming into, was it round one? And that is Blake Howes. So I think this one is a bit of a no-brainer. 91, I'm going to say, for a score. Maybe a little bit off there, but what was he in the champ? So 93 from 14 games in the VFL last year. So that's a decent enough average. I think his job security is looking pretty good there as well. We know that there was a Bowie injury. He's out for about 8 weeks. So I think regardless of that anyway, he's probably played his way into that spot. Really, really solid performance. And I think it can be a decent enough on-field option. But I'll tell you why I'm not as concerned going with the 3 premiums here as opposed to the 4 that I've been running with for probably, just say, the last month. The next one is Reed. Again, speaks for himself. Kingy's already mentioned that he thinks, and just Kingy's opinion, that he'll be Essendon's most important player this year. It's a huge call. No pressure on the young man either, but we saw what he did in that last preseason game as well. 80+ points. So I'll lock him in. No discussion needed there, I think. So with Howes and Reed in particular, I just think they are absolute locks. Gibcus, I can see where you'd fade him, but I'm just really happy with what he can produce. Job security, as I said, is elite. And we've seen him already do what he needs to do before. Coming back from injury, I know, so durability may be a concern. You've got Williams there with some durability issues. Reed, obviously, with some durability issues, but we're not paying up too much, are we? Pretty happy at the price there. And then the next bloke, this is pretty much just through necessity at the moment. I wouldn't mind a Caulfield or another type there, but I think for the moment, I've pretty much got to go with Ethan Phillips with this setup, and it's all about money. So that price point, 102,400. If he plays round one, if he's selected in that side, I'm pretty much going to run with him. And as I said, just more out of necessity there. So Dacos, Shees, and Young as those 3 premiums. Williams, Gibcus, and Howes on field. And then we've got Reed and Phillips there as well. Now, why am I not as worried about running with, just say, the 2 on-field rookies here? I won't really put Williams in that camp, but you might if you want to. It's a fact that during the first 6 rounds, a lot of those weeks are going to be best 18. So I'm hoping that I won't even need to rely on just say 1 to 2 of these scores most weeks anyway. So that's a little bit of a bonus there, and something that I'm also keeping in mind when I'm creating this team and looking at this structure. So that's what the backline is looking like. Now onto the midfield. You really won't be surprised to see who is M1. And this hasn't changed. It hasn't changed all preseason. I've been a huge advocate for the Bont. When lots of people were fading him during the start of the preseason, I was absolutely all over him. Big thanks to Damo when I was having a chat with him. Talked about a lot of the pros and the cons, along with Clarkey as well on the footy mailbag. Ever since that chat, I've just been so red hot on the Bont. And I don't even really need to give an explanation, because I've put a half an hour player profile video out this year. Nothing's changed there in regards to the information. We saw what he did in the last preseason match. Looks like he was just going in second gear in the first half. Just got up to third, 130 type score. So I just love this man. Super reliable, captain option every week. And my call is that unless we see some sort of major injury, or which I certainly don't wish on him, I don't think he's going to get below 645K at any stage this year. So that's my big, bold call. And how you're going to get the man in, I'm just going to start with him. Now, this is where we start to see a few changes, but this is not a reactionary pick. It is someone that I have been really keen on, but as I said, the big focus for me originally for this year was going in with those new gen type picks. You can see that in the back line there with your Dacos, your Sheasel, and your Young. There's no Sicily, there's no Stewart type. So I've done that so far. The Bont, here's a little bit of a different case. But what I'm looking for here is someone with a little bit of history, someone that's just going to really hold this team together. And I'm going with a little bit of an older player here, which is controversial for the price that you're actually paying. But there is meat on the bone to this pick. There's value. I love his role. You know what he's going to do every week. You know what he's going to bring to the table. And it's actually Bont's teammate, the man with the most interesting tattoos in the game. It is Liber, Tom Liberatore. Now, we know that he had that 20 in the system last year with that injury game. If you take that out, go down to 20 games, you divide that, his average actually goes above 120. And that's the third for midfielders. So he's right up there. And we've got him at a little bit of a cheaper price. Now, speaking to my man, Matty Malta from Inside the Kennel podcast, shout out to you, legend. If you want to speak to anyone about any of the Doggies players, anything that's coming out of the Whitten Oval, he's a man to speak to. And according to him, he has not looked fresher in his career. Another thing he said was he's also got the Liber DNA. We know what his old man managed to do, just play on and on and on. And I've got faith that Liber can still produce very similar numbers to what he did last year. So we are scared off by that age. Once they get past 30, I completely understand that. But I think that Liber is a bit of a different beast. And I think that he's going to be a really reliable pick. For me, the only question mark we have on this man is age. Apart from that, look at history, role. You may say durability concerns. I can understand that. But I'm just looking for a really solid selection here. Now, the other concern I had originally was going with Bont and Liber is that you limit your captain options in a way. But I think with someone like Dacos, that should be fine. So if you rotate between your Bont, your Dacos, and possibly another bloke that I'll get in the side here, then I think that should be a-okay. So Bont is there at M1, and then we've got Liber there at M2 for now. And I doubt that he'll move. Now, the next bloke here, I have been keen on all preseason. I actually took him out for Errol Goulden. Errol, you are gone, son. I really expected him to step up, particularly with the circumstances that we see in the Sydney midfield currently, but just wasn't his time. And I've just got a little bit of cold feet. I think I just got excited about that preseason game, stars in the eyes, but I've gone back. He wasn't really in my plans preseason, so I'm off him for now, and I am back on my man, Tom Green. I'll stick with what I've said all preseason. I think he's got the potential to finish in the top 4 for mids for average. Now, originally the big plan here was the big flip, start high, take advantage of the early fixture, then trade down to the player that I've missed, whether that be your Crouch, Steels, Tukes, whoever I don't start with in the side. However, now, I think with another couple of players that I may look to select, I may just keep Green. Just keep on to him. Now, I know that sounds a little bit silly because he's got 2 buys in the first 12 rounds. So who knows, right? But the talent is just undeniable. And I think he's going to dominate. He's built for Supercoach. We saw what he did in the weekend. Fantastic score. I thought that could have even been higher, slowed up at stages during the game. But we know what damage this man can do. We look at his post buy average from last year. There is so much to like apart from the buys. Now, to be totally honest, my salary with this side is so tight. It is so tight, which is something that I absolutely hate about it. And ideally, I would actually like to get him up to Zach Butters. I'm so close to being able to do it. I just can't get there at the moment. So we'll see what happens. But Tom Green is there for now. All right. So this has changed a little bit, but another man, I've been keen on him. It's just in regards to structure. He's actually, I think, moved up a spot now. And it's actually Nick Martin. So I've talked a lot about him. Now, a couple of slight concerns, a couple of whispers maybe around the place that there may be the potential for him to even push up onto a wing. Ridley and a couple of things going on there. Now, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to scare people off. I need to confirm a couple of things here. For the first time in about 2 months, I'm not getting cold feet, but I'm starting to question the pick a little bit. But I'm staying strong and I'm staying solid for now. Obviously, the thing with Martin is that the expectation is he will go down back when the first DPP changes come, which is another beauty about being able to select a couple of extra rookies there on field in my defensive line. So with Martin to go back, all of a sudden Williams then goes to D5. I'm really comfortable that I'm only really fielding one of these rookies. For the first 6 weeks, for a few weeks there, I won't even have to field at least one of them with the best 18 with this structure that I'm going with. So that's another thing I'm taking into account. And I think that Nick Martin, if all things go well, has the potential to be a top 8 defensive averaging player this year. Now, there could be some changes to his role. Hey, could he be moved up forward more to that wing? Yes, which is a concern. But I'm going with this for now. I think there's a lot of value in the pick if he keeps his current role. And another thing that I've heard lots of the preseason is that this is a role that they are so keen to keep him in. They've put him there for a reason. They want the ball in his hands. We've already seen the data. He's got the numbers behind him, particularly in that last match. So I'm going there for now. I don't think that this will change. The next bloke is someone that was not on my radar pre-season, but he certainly has definitely come on the radar for a few reasons. Now, I did have Matt Crouch here, but I've gone down just a little bit and selected Ollie Wines. Now, we saw what he did in that last match. The main concern I had was the fact that Butters wasn't there and the CBA as well was at a little bit of fool's gold. But we know what Kenny said. He's going back to that main CBA role. It was only 50% last year, and I guarantee you that will absolutely rise. He's a former Brownlow medalist. He's had a 110 averaging year. I think a couple of 105s are around the mark there. So if he can manage to do that, then I even think that this could be a win. I think worst case scenario, the downside isn't even that low. I think that there is actually a fair bit of upside to this, a fair bit of meat on the bone. Absolute best case scenario, you get your cheap M8. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. He's someone that I'm selecting, thinking that I'm going to be upgrading eventually, but he's also got that terrific buy as well. We know what the start's like for Port, 7 out of the first 10 weeks. This man will be sleeping in his bed. And given the fact that I have neglected to start both Houston and Butters, who I'm huge fans of, and some way I'd still love to get them in, I'm going to go with Ollie Wines because at least I'm taking advantage of that Port fixture. So big things to like about Ollie Wines. Now, I don't think he's going to regress. I just can't see a world where he's playing an inside mid role where he will go backwards. Will be a time where they say, actually, mate, you're looking a little bit slow there. You can spend a little bit more time forward, or even we'll chuck you on a wing because it's just a bit of necessity here. Maybe, but I just think that there is a lot of upside. There's money to be made. And I'd just love Well, when I say just, wouldn't it be great for him to get even to the 550K mark, give us some nice on-field scoring, and then maybe jump on a player after they've had their buy and really upgrade to one of those uber premiums. So I'm on Ollie Wines at the moment. Bit of a late pick for me, but I think it makes sense at this stage anyway. Now, the next three blokes, again, really popular picks you will not be surprised with. I'll just lock all three of them in. It's McKercher, Sanders, and obviously Huswaite as well. Again, not a lot to say about these three. I'm comfortable running with at least Sanders and Huswaite on field. You'll see with the other players I've got on my bench that McKercher, he may be more of a bench option or chop and change depending on matchups and all the rest. But didn't look fantastic in that last match. Managed to get a little bit of the ball. I think he was better second quarter. Certainly pretty quiet in the first quarter. Looked a little bit fumbly. Is there enough ball for both, well, all of Fisher, Sheasel, and McKercher to score well? Possibly. We just know that he's got the talent. I think averaged 150 in 4 games in the NAB last year. So super scoring pedigree when it comes to the juniors. I'm quite happy. When we talk about pedigree, in 4 games, Sanders averaged 170. Managed to find a heap of the pill. He'll be getting midfield time. No-brainer selection. You got to have him on field. You got to select him in the side. Huswaite has been a bit of a late bolter, particularly in let's just say the last quarter of the preseason, particularly in those pracky preseason matches. Looks like the role is there for now with some of the injuries that they have. It may be more of a short-term type pick. When Day comes back, we'll see what happens. But job security for now, I actually like, and scoring potential is absolutely fantastic. So I'm keen to have these three, and I think that all of them are very, very fieldable, particularly the second two in Sanders and Huswaite that I've got there. Now, the next bloke I would call almost a must-have. So for me, I'm saying that Sanders and Roberts are absolute must-haves. Huswaite and McKercher pretty close to, but certainly Sanders and certainly Roberts. Now, the big question mark for me going into this game was, where is Roberts actually going to play? I didn't even know if he was going to make the 22. I thought maybe sub-candidate or maybe someone to start in the 22, come off as the sub. But guess what? See you later, Seagull. See you later, Jake Lloyd. He was pushed up onto a wing, and Roberts basically took over his role from what I saw anyway. Kickouts as a bit of a bonus. So he's, I think, certainly in their 22. They want him down back. I think they like the ball in his hands as well. So I think this is going to be a super selection. And to have the luxury of having someone like a Roberts, or called a McKercher, or called a Roberts, whoever you decide to go on field with, I think that's a really nice luxury there. And that's some extra cash that's going to be generated. And you're not getting one of these speculative rookies. That's something that I'm not super keen on this year, is going really speculative with rookies. So I'm quite happy to have Roberts there. And the next bloke as well, super talented. And I think, again, this is just such a luxury to be able to run with Darcy Wilson on my bench. So we saw what he did in that last pracky match coming off a wing. I actually did a game review on that. So you can go back and check out all about what I had to say about this man then. But job security is absolutely rock solid. Not really an inside type player, which is not fantastic for Supercoach, but still not afraid to get his hands dirty. A couple of really nice marks in that previous game. They love him. They rate him. He'll be playing every week if fit. So DPP, I'm really happy to have him in the midfield as well, to be able to switch around, because I do have a lot of forwards with that mid DPP also. So Darcy Wilson, we're up to have him in the side. And then the last bloke is Jai Clark. And we all know about him, early draft pick. I think there's opportunity in that aging Geelong midfield. Guthrie's out. Who knows what mid-time Danger's going to get? Do they chuck him up forward for a little bit more? I'm not too sure. Does he just play there for necessity? Really don't know exactly what the setup's going to be, but surely it's come time to play Jai Clark. And I thought he looked super solid in his last game as well. So after watching that game, I actually thought to myself, well, Clark is actually fieldable. If you need to field Jai Clark, I wouldn't be too concerned about it. So every rookie, I believe that I'm selecting my midfield here, McKercher, Sanders, Huswaite, Roberts, Wilson, and Clark, are all certainly fieldable on their day. And I wouldn't be too disappointed if I had to. So pretty happy with the rookie setup there. What I'd really love here is Butters, and LDU is the other bloke. Now, I haven't been completely scared off with that preseason game, because we know what he did last year and then absolutely smashed it. He is the bloke, along with Butters, that have had basically all preseason that aren't there anymore. So sort of Libba's taken over from whichever one you want to say. Butters in particular, I love that buy. Spoke to JB from Dr. Supercoach, who spoke in person as Zach Butters. He's looking really good. His ownership's gone down, almost halved now. People have been scared off of that ankle. So it makes me want to pick him almost even more. But Butters or Libba, I just feel a little bit more comfortable with Libba. See what happens. But that's it for now. That's midfield, guys. We are now into the rucks. All right. So I got cold feet on Max Gawn, and I will admit that he was out of the last side. No more Maxi. I've thought about things again. I look back to what he did in that Carlton match. I thought, can Avery Ruckman play Max Gawn like Brodie Grundy did? I'm not too sure. Maxi doesn't really have a decent backup these days. Did he put too much in the week before against Carlton, spend a few petrol tickets? Was Brodie Grundy just so good? Is he going to be that good coming into this season? These are all questions that I've been asking myself. We've got that score, that lowest score already built into Gawn's scoring. It's only going to be for that first week. We understand that, but still, you got to take that into account. You got to look at his upcoming fixture. You got to take into account his ceiling. There are so many things that you've got to take into account with this pick. But at the end of the day, I'm not prepared to pay up for Tim English at this stage. I think there's ways that I'm going to build up to someone like an English. I'm not prepared to go Rowan. I love Big Kizza, but I'm not going there. No to Wits. We know what the story is with Darcy. So I'm just going to go with him. Now, he's a sort of bloke, Max Gawn, that can come out next week and just go bang. He can give you 150 in the absolute blink of an eye. His first quarter, I think he was on over 35 Supercoach points, and it was looking like that he was going 120 plus and going to pretty much take Grundy to the cleaners. That was not the case because Grundy hit back in a massive way, and he's obviously going to be my two as well. So, yeah, quickly back to Gawn. I just think that he can hurt you with that ceiling, and he's a man that we just cannot write off. All that preseason research that I'd done, I'd called him a lock. I'm not going to go past that anymore. I thought about it, but I've already, missed out on your Stewarts. I haven't gone with your LDU, your Butters, who I'd locked in. I'm not prepared to keep on doing that going down the line. So I'm going with Max Gawn at this stage. And Brodie Grundy, I don't even need to speak about him. I think every team should have him. Dominated, absolutely dominated. And well done, mate. Super happy for him. So, yeah, no discussion needed, I don't think, with Brodie Grundy. Now, this should be Naismith, and it's pretty obvious it should be Naismith. However, does he play this week? If he's named, it's going to be super hard to leave him out. However, again, does he play this week and then get stuck on 2 games? Nate comes back. I'm super interested to know what that forward line's going to look like. We've got Tom Lynch coming back as early as this week as well. Do they prefer Samson Ryan because he's potentially a better forward than what Naismith is? But do they go with Naismith because he's that better ruck option? Probably not, I'd say, if you're running with Nate, because he's going to be your number 1 ruck. So I really don't know when Naismith fits, if Nank is fit and ready. And I don't know exactly when Nank's going to be ready to go. It's going to be in the next, either this week or next week, I'm pretty sure. So do I want Naismith just sitting there with 1 to 2 games under his belt, albeit that a super score in the system? And if he gets to his 3rd game, he's going to make some nice cash, at least for that first week anyway. We look at his durability, who knows? And I wouldn't wish it on him. But yeah, who knows what happens with Naismith anyway. But for now, I'm actually going with Livingston. Now, I'm not an advocate for having a loop. That's not me this year in particular, but it lends to the player that I will be selecting at F1. Now, this is where a little bit of the spice comes into it. And this is a very, in my opinion anyway, questionable and speculative pick. And it is my man, Dogger Jackson. I'm going with Dogger. You're going to love it. You're going to hate it. This is going to be really obvious to say, or you may be on the fence. How obvious is that? One of the 3 options, but more towards that love or you hate. Now, there's a lot to unpack with this pick. So the first thing is, we don't know how long Shrek's going to be out for. Now, Rono Daniels put a tweet out saying around the 4-week mark. So that may be 3 from now, possibly 4 from now. We're not too sure. But Freo have not given an absolute timeline. We know with big men that it's hard to put a timeline on things. These things can linger on a little bit more. Sometimes we have these miracle recoveries. So it's very much a risk selecting a player because another player is injured and you know that they're going to come in and most likely take this player's role. I did say at the end of last year on a podcast, I forget where it was, but I did say that Dogger Jackson would be one of my first selected players in that forward line if Darcy was out for an extended period of time. Now, is this going to be 4 weeks? Is this going to be 5, 6, 7? I really don't know. And with the big Shrek, I haven't got the greatest confidence that he will be back early. Even when he does come back, will they rest him a little bit more forward and even give that 50-50 split in the ruck with Dogger, which can still give him the opportunity to maybe go that 95-100 plus? These are all things that I'm asking. Now, the big concern for me is the Fremantle team sheets. How are they going to structure up? Are they going to want to mess with that forward line and bring Dogger out? I would, because he's such a talented ruckman, and we saw what he did last year. Coming up against Brisbane, bang, he went like a 170, something ridiculous, albeit mainly against Darcy Ford, I believe. But there's history there. We saw what he did as solo ruck last year. But back to the team sheets, it's all about Liam Reedy. Now, if Liam Reedy is selected, my idea about that is the fact that they're going to run with him as that number 1 ruck, with Dogger being that second string ruckman and playing predominantly forward. That would be my read on the situation. Excuse the pun, I didn't even mean that one. But if Reedy is selected, I assume that that's going to be the case. And Dogger then doesn't become a pick for me, and I will make a change. Now, at this stage, I'm not even sure when Freo are playing, how much time I'll have to make changes. So I'll do this, and I probably should have done that before I actually recorded this video. But there's a lot to unpack and a lot to think about with this pick. The other thing that we think about, is he actually going to be a keeper, or is he going to be a player that we look to flip? Because with Shrek in the side, he's just not a Supercoach selection for mine as that predominant key forward type. So what do we do here? In an ideal world, and this is best case scenario for me, given the fact that I've got Gawn and Grundy in the rucks, if Shrek is out for the first 6-7 weeks, let's just say, give it 6 weeks, then Dogger can actually swap with Livingston there and cover for the Gawn and Grundy buys. That would be elite, because we know how popular Grundy is and we know how popular Gawn is. Even if you're running Naismith and he somehow gets games during this period, which I highly doubt it, because Nate could be back by then, but he'll only be able to cover for the 1 game, given the fact that he shares a buy there. So that's best case scenario for me. We'll almost get those 2 bonus scores, covering for that Gawn, covering for that Grundy. Hey, and if he decides to keep on to him, he can also cover for those other buys as well later on in the season. So we don't have a crystal ball, do we? Now, this, when it comes to a bit of my different strategy this year, I'm getting a little bit more aggressive. So with your Green could be a flip, with your Jackson could be a flip. And it's all about the start of the season. Now, what you don't want to do is Jackson goes off for 2 games and you think, all right, time to trade him in. You either start with him or you don't bring him in my opinion. You can bring him in if there's news that Darcy's out for even longer. But this isn't a pick where if he has a red hot couple of weeks that you look to jump on him, you've got to start. So for me, I started around the 90K mark last year, as I mentioned, managed to get to top 2K. My focus this year is being a little bit more aggressive, making some moves, and I think Dogger could be that man for me. Now, worst case is, doesn't tend to score well. He could be just an early flip. Who knows? I've probably rambled on, but I've tried to give you I've tried to just unpack my brain and throw out the questions that I'm asking myself. And that's the basis behind my decision. So, long story short, I'm hoping, and probably this is a dream, that he could even cover for those 2 buys. He could score well enough, even possibly to keep him for the year, because that will end up averaging out probably still to a top 6 if Darcy's out for long enough. I could flip him. Yeah, I'm going to stop talking about Jackson now because he is doing my head in, but it is a pick that could change. Now, The next option I got here is, do you go down to Zach Fisher? So I will select Zach Fisher, absolutely. Or do I go Flanders? Do I go Heaney? Do I go none of them? I put a tweet out. You know the old saying, fool me once, it's on you. Fool me twice, it's on me. Fool me 3 times, it's on both of us. Oh, man. George, I'm coming along on the ride, my friend. Someone, anyone, what on earth am I doing? This is a reactionary pick, but I'm going to explain the method behind the madness. Now, this is Isaac Heaney, a burn man from the past, for me, for many, but 2024 is a bit of a different season. Now, why Heaney over Flanders? I'll talk about that in a little bit, because one thing that you could say here is that both Jackson and Heaney are potential short-term selections. With Flanders, you're keeping him for the year. Another thing with Dogger over Flanders is that he doesn't have that early buy. Got a fantastic buy, obviously shares that with Port. So the best buy in the game. That may not be relevant, but at least for the start of the season, he's not going to have a buy, or at least one less than what Flanders will. Heaney obviously has that buy as well. I'm running with Grundy. I may also run with a mid-price Sydney player, which people may disagree with. You shouldn't be going there. But there is a fair bit of upside to the pick. Now, they were career numbers. I get that. Can he repeat it? Lots of people are going to say no. I think there's the potential too. Keeping in mind, his round 0 player, that score, and it's only going to be for one price rise, but that score is locked into his system. There has never been a time before in the history of Supercoach where we can lock in a bloke with a massive score already guaranteed to be locked into his price cycle. Now, I'm not exactly sure what his current break even is, but once we see that, it's going to be ultra low. As I said, there's no guarantee he could repeat this. If they're really struggling up forward, I could see Heaney potentially having to go forward. But again, even there, he can put up a 90 to 95 average, and we have seen that. We've seen that plenty of times in seasons past as well. It's that upside at the start of the season. Heaney as an inside midfielder, we really haven't seen it too many times before. Could this be the year? Again, we get tricked all the time. I know this, but it's round 1, massive score, and I just loved everything that I saw. It's opportunity as well, isn't it? Parker, Mills, Gonski. We know that they even didn't go with Sheldrick. If Sheldrick gets named, does that concern you a little bit more? Because he's going to spend some more time in there. I'm really not too sure. Adams into the mix as well. He's not playing at the moment. So I think to start off the season, Heaney is just going to be a really nice money maker, as well as giving us, hopefully, some midfield scoring numbers in our forward line. Now, originally I had, what was it? Maybe 4 weeks ago, Nat Fyfe is my F1. Things have completely changed here, but I think you've got to go with the times. Again, is this going to be an early flip? He's got the buy. Could you then go down to Flanders? I know that he'd already have a rise as well. There's question marks around that. Is it a waste of a trade? Lots of people will say that, but again, I'm going aggressive and I want to get some really decent scores at the start of the year. And I think that Heaney can provide that for me. Now, what happens once Adams is back, Parker's back, Mills is back? He may potentially have to shift forward again. If that's the case, I'm quite happy to basically take my winnings, hopefully, and then move on. I'll give maybe one game when a couple of players of these back. And if there's any sniff that he's looking to get out of that role for any reason, then I'm just going to jump ship. But I think when that time comes, I would have already probably been a winner with the pick for me to be able to do that and still be happy. So a little bit of the method behind the madness with the Heaney pick there. And again, possibly a little bit silly given the fact that Flanders is that season-long pick. Heaney and Dogger as well. Maybe even a flip, Heaney at the bye, Dogger when Darcy comes back. Reedy, as I said with Jackson, we've talked about the pros and we've talked about the cons, but for now, Jackson and Heaney, I'm running with both. The next bloke is Fisher. So again, I don't think there's much to say, but everything that he did really, really impressed me. Again, it was a preseason match. It wasn't in-season data, but what more could he have done? He was exciting, attacking, quick. He was electric. great defensive pressure, spoiling, use the ball pretty well for Zach Fisher, got enough of it. Left footer on one side, Sheaves on the other side, McKercher in between, somewhere there. Kick-ins is a bit of a bonus. I just think there is so much like about the Zach Fisher role, and don't necessarily look back at his scoring history. What I'd urge you to do, if you're still on the fence with Zach Fisher, is look back at the history for North Melbourne halfbacks. That'll give you better numbers than what you will with Zach Fisher. So get a bit of a balance there between Fisher as a player and the ultimate role that he's going to be playing. Now, this next position, how many blokes can you actually fit in? Now, at the moment, I have a man who I've been hot on for a long time. Hopefully, he'll be in there for a short time, not a good time, but that short time, he will absolutely party, and I can jump off ship before inevitably he gets a rest or something happens to his body. It's Nat Fyfe. We know what he's back to, and it's that CBA role. Last year, it was more of that forward role where I thought he could still make a bit of an impact and average enough to actually be a decent pick. That was not the case, and he really burnt me as a starting pick, but I'm going back to the well this year. It's not just look at the name Nathan Fyfe, but we need to look at Nathan Fyfe, the name, because we know what the talent is like there. Certainly getting on, plenty of issues with his body, but if he can get back to, let's just say, 65% of his best, he's going to be still a super selection. The role is actually there. The role is real. We spoke to Damo about it. Now, he may be managed at times. I don't think that that's necessarily going to be sub. There may be a slight chance, but I think this is going to be all good. And I think he may even do enough before he looks to get managed and we can look to move him on. Do I think he's going to be a keeper? No. If I didn't have any durability concerns, then possibly yes. But I just think that that's going to be unrealistic for Fyfe to get through the whole season. And so I'm viewing him just as really nice cash cow, and he'll have the ability to give me some really nice points. No early buy as well. So still really, really big on Nat Fyfe. I'll need to keep looking here. The next bloke as well was really locked for me after that last, was it pre-season match, practice match, whatever, the last pre-season match. And then I think he performed a pretty solid role in the round 0 game as well. Pretty quiet early was James Jordan, but similar to Heaney, there's just so much opportunity there. Now, another Sydney player with Grundy, Heaney on the same line as Heaney. People won't like that, but I just think that the value, you really can't deny that. I think he can play inside. He can play outside. The opportunity's there. He's solidified in the best 22 for mine. And until the other players come back, like people that we mentioned when we were talking about the Isaac Heaney pick, I still think he's going to be a really solid selection. So he doesn't need to do a heap, doesn't need to absolutely set the world on fire. I think he can get an 80 average. James Jordan, you may disagree, but I just think he's going to be a really solid selection and do the job for us this year. So he's there at F5. The next bloke here, we've got the number 1 pick, and it's Harley Reid. So I think this is not a non-negotiable, but again, a super popular pick. A little bit scared off after that practice match, but then it looked really good, mainly in that more midfield role in the next match after that. Let's just call it the preseason match. So I'm happy to start Harley Reid. Now, the big issue for me is actually whether or not I'm actually going to start him on field, or do you even go with, say, a Wilson? I'm not too sure, but I think that I'm just going to start him in my side, and I'm actually going to go him over Lazaro. I was probably more keen on Lazaro, given the fact he's more of a mature body, but I suppose job security, you'd always go with Reid there. Role, I really don't know what's going to happen with Reid. I hope that it's going to be more of a midfield role, but I think with Lazaro, he'll certainly get, maybe a 30% mid role, and then mainly that half forward role. I'm really not too sure. That they're tough to split. If I really need to upgrade, let's just say Livingston, to a Naismith, or a Phillips up to a Caulfield type, or whoever I'm going to go with, then that may be an option there. But for now, I am going with Harley. Now, the next 2 blokes, this guy is an absolute non-negotiable, and I will be actually fielding him over Harley Reid at this stage, and that's Alex Sexton. So went massive in that last preseason game. Again, wasn't massive in the round 1 match, but the role was certainly there. That's all that we wanted to see. Scored absolutely as he needed to make us some nice coin. And I think that he'll actually average a little bit more than what he averaged, than what he scored in round 0. So Alex Sexton for me is a non-negotiable, a no-brainer, and a perfect on-field F6 option. If you want to push him to the bench, and you could argue that I have pushed him to the bench here with a Reed, then that's fine as well. I think that, I'll lock in the next bloke. So it is Aaron Cadman. So I think if you look at the rookies that I've got here, you've got your Gibcus, Howes, Reed, I'll skip fillers, but Roberts, Wilson, Clark, Huswaite, Sanders, McKercher, Skip Livingston, Sexton. I wouldn't even go with Cadman, but Reed, and then you're up to a couple of mid-prices here. I can't really see a rookie that I'm missing out on. Looking to the round 0 games, I don't think there's a rookie that's looking so good that you've got to start them apart from your Howes or anyone else that have actually gotten the side. You may say the young man from Richmond, name escapes me at the moment. Is it Green? Name escapes me, but I don't mind Aaron Cadman simply because of the fact that I rate his job security a lot higher, and because of the fact that he's got a couple of really nice weeks. Now, we saw Hogan, and shout out to my man Swizz. All power to you for the Hogan move, mate. You almost tempted me, but just can't do it myself. But absolutely see the method and logic there that you're going with, mate. But it's all about that draw, isn't it? West Coast, North Melbourne. If Cadman can kick, just say 3 in one of those games, couple of contested marks, that'd be really, really nice for us. As we said, job security is great, looking a lot bigger. GWS are going to be a really solid team this year. Can even chop out in the ruck a little bit more. Do they go with that Riccardi? I don't know, but there's a few things to like about the Cadman pick. Look, only averaged in the mid to high 20s last year, so nothing to write home about there. But remember, number 1 pick, he's a young key forward, more size on him now. I'm not expecting the world, but I would love a couple of bags early if possible. And if they're going to happen, I think they will happen early due to the opposition that he'll be facing. So that is the team in all of its glory, guys. So I suppose to sum up a few things, the structure, I'm going with your 3, and this is so premiums, I'm going with your 3 down back. I'm going with your real 3 Ubers in the midfield. I've then gone your Martin, who I'm counting as a premium, actually a defensive premium. So you could almost say that I'm going with 4 defensive premiums here, but certainly the 3 there in the midfield. Wines, I'm counting as a stepping stone at this stage. Both Gawn and Grundy, one of them will certainly be a keeper. Then you'd probably look to go to an English, but I'm hoping that there's a world where that will be a pretty easy trade-up. Even better, I can just keep these 2 for the whole season. I could also see a world where that happens as well. Dogger and Heaney, now, could be keepers or could be early flips. So this is where the concern comes in with this side. There's not keeper. If you look at Janeth yesterday, then the majority of blokes that he's paying, let's just say 450 plus 4, are all going to be keepers in his side. That's a little bit of a difference for me. Jacksons, Heaney's, Greens, who knows? Question marks are plenty there. But in saying that, I've got to go with something different this year. I'm going to try to win the thing. I'm not going just for a top 1K or 2K finish. I've had so many of those over the years, just the usual top 1%. I want to aim higher. So I'm going to get a little bit of the Godfather in me, a little bit of abs in me with the Heaney types, with the Jackson types. I'm still sticking to my gut with, your Youngs, your Sheezels, your Bonts, your Greens who have been on, your Gawns and your Grundys. So I haven't moved away from those type of picks. So as I said, I'm trying to get a little bit of a balance here between what I was thinking during most of the preseason, particularly those players on the watch list, and then being reactive to what's happened in the practice games, what's happened in round 0. But again, this is historical because we've already got scores in there, like your Heaney's, like your Jordans, like your Grundys, that we've just basically never had before. So I think that's pretty much it. So aggressive, looking to flip, and going to use these boosts early. I will guarantee you now, everyone, there will be no more boosts in the bank. So that is the team for now, guys. We'll wait to see what happens with Reedy with those type of selections like your Doggers. But at the moment, that will be DR's rusty spoons going into 2024. So thanks for watching, guys. A big shout out to the members. We have hit the plus 40 mark. So means the world to me, guys. We have got a great community going on. So much love and a huge shout out to you. Again, please make sure that you do message me ASAP if you are interested in the Supercoach with DR $100 Open League. Some really big cash prizes already on offer there. And the more people, the more the prize pool will go up. But please make sure that you do that as soon as possible. But that is it for now, guys. I will be doing a couple more team previews with some legends in the next couple of days. We'll squeeze those in before the start of round one. And if we're lucky, may even get a Supercoach Swordplay potty going if everyone has the time. So much love, much peace. Hope that you're not stressing out too much, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys. Bye.